Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel General Hospital today. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The sun dipped low over Port Charles, casting a golden hue across the city's skyline, where secrets simmered beneath the surface of every relationship. In the heart of General Hospital, the air buzzed with tension, as whispered conversations and furtive glances hinted at a revelation that would shake the very foundations of Portia Robinson's life. For weeks, the question of her unborn child's biological father had hung over the town like a storm cloud, threatening to unleash chaos on all who dared to speculate. Now the truth was about to come crashing down, and no one, not Portia, not Curtis Ashford, not even the enigmatic figure lurking in the shadows, would emerge unscathed. Portia stood in her office at General Hospital, her hands trembling as she clutched a manila envelope. The test results inside held the key to a mystery that had haunted her for months. Her marriage to Curtis, already strained by past betrayals and unspoken doubts, teetered on the edge of collapse. She loved Curtis, or at least she thought she did. Their bond had been forged through trials, from the dangers of their undercover work to the emotional fallout of her previous lies about Trina's paternity. But now, with a new life growing inside her, Portia couldn't shake the gnawing fear that history was repeating itself. The envelope felt heavier than it should, as if it carried not just paper but the weight of her entire future. She hadn't opened it yet. She wasn't sure she could. The possibility that Curtis might not be the father of her unborn child gnawed at her, a relentless whisper of doubt that refused to be silenced. There had been that one night, a fleeting, reckless moment with someone else, someone she tried to forget. It was a mistake, a lapse in judgment born of loneliness and wine, but it had happened, and now the consequences were staring her in the face. Across town, Curtis sat at the bar of the Metro Court, nursing a whiskey he barely touched. His mind was elsewhere, tangled in a web of suspicion and hurt. He'd noticed the distance in Portia's eyes, the way she avoided his touch, the way her laughter had grown hollow. He wasn't a fool. He'd seen the signs before, back when she'd kept the truth about Trina's paternity from him. That wound had never fully healed, and now with Portia's pregnancy, old insecurities flared anew. Was this child his? Or was there another secret she was keeping? Another betrayal waiting to tear them apart? The bar was quieter than usual, the hum of conversation barely audible over the soft jazz playing in the background. Curtis glanced at his phone, hoping for a message from Portia, something to reassure him that everything was fine. But there was nothing. Just silence. He took a sip of his drink, the burn of the whiskey doing little to dull the ache in his chest. He didn't want to believe Portia would deceive him again, but doubt was a powerful thing, and it had taken root in his heart. Meanwhile, at General Hospital, Trina Robinson paced the hallway outside her mother's office. She'd overheard enough to know something was wrong, terribly wrong. Her mother had always been a pillar of strength, but lately Portia seemed fragile, as if one wrong move could shatter her entirely. Trina didn't know the details, but she knew her mother was hiding something. The way Portia avoided eye contact, the way her voice trembled when she spoke about the baby, it all pointed to a truth Trina wasn't sure she wanted to face. "Mom, what's going on?" Trina had asked the day before, her tone sharp with worry. Portia had brushed it off, claiming it was just pregnancy hormones, but Trina wasn't buying it. She'd grown up in the shadow of her mother's secrets, and she recognized the signs. Whatever was in that envelope, it was big and it was going to change everything. As Trina lingered outside the office, the door swung open and Portia emerged, her face pale and her eyes red-rimmed. The envelope was still in her hand, unopened. "Trina," Portia said, her voice barely above a whisper. "What are you doing here?" "I could ask you the same thing," Trina replied, crossing her arms. "You've been acting weird for weeks, Mom. What's in that envelope? Is it about the baby?" Portia's breath caught in her throat. She wanted to tell Trina everything, to unburden herself of the fear and guilt that had been eating her alive. But how could she? How could she admit to her daughter that she'd made a mistake, that the man Trina called Dad might not be the father of her unborn sibling? The shame was too much and the words wouldn't come. "It's nothing," Portia lied, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Just some test results. Routine stuff." Trina's eyes narrowed. "You're a terrible liar, Mom. You always have been. Before Portia could respond, her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out, her heart sinking when she saw the name on the screen. Jordan Ashford. Curtis's ex-wife had a knack for showing up at the worst possible moments, and Portia had a sinking feeling that this call was no coincidence. She hesitated, then answered. Portia, we need to talk, Jordan said, her voice clipped and urgent. It's about Curtis. And the baby. Portia's blood ran cold. What about them? She asked, her voice barely steady. Not over the phone, Jordan said. Meet me at the Metro Court in 20 minutes. Portia ended the call, her mind racing. Jordan knew something big. Had Curtis confided in her? Had he somehow found out about the night Portia was trying so hard to forget? The thought made her stomach churn. She glanced at Trina, who was watching her with a mixture of concern and suspicion. I have to go, Portia said, shoving the envelope into her bag. We'll talk later, okay? Trina didn't respond, but the look in her eyes said she wasn't letting this go. Portia hurried out of the hospital, her heart pounding as she made her way to the Metro Court. The city blurred around her, the familiar streets of Port Charles feeling foreign and hostile. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was walking into a trap. At the Metro Court, Jordan was waiting in a secluded corner of the restaurant, her expression unreadable. Portia slid into the seat across from her, trying to mask her anxiety. What's this about, Jordan? She asked, her voice sharper than she intended. Jordan leaned forward, her eyes locking onto Portia's. I know about the paternity test, she said, her words cutting through the air like a knife. And I know who the other possible father is. Portia's breath hitched. How do you know? Jordan didn't flinch. I'm a cop, Portia. I notice things. And I've been watching you and Curtis for a while now. The way you've been acting, the way he's been pulling away, it wasn't hard to put the pieces together. But what I didn't expect was the name that came up when I did some digging. Portia's hands clenched into fists under the table. What name? She asked, though she already knew the answer. Jordan's voice dropped to a whisper. Zeke Randall. The name hit Portia like a punch to the gut. Zeke. Her ex-lover, the man she'd turned to in a moment of weakness, the man she'd sworn to forget. It had been one night, one stupid, reckless night, but it had been enough to unravel everything she'd built with Curtis. And now Jordan knew. If Jordan knew, it was only a matter of time before Curtis found out, too. How did you? Portia started, but Jordan cut her off. I have my sources, she said. But that's not the point. The point is, you need to tell Curtis the truth before he hears it from someone else. He deserves that much. Portia's eyes filled with tears. I can't, she whispered. It'll destroy him. It'll destroy us. Jordan's expression softened, but only slightly. Maybe it will. But keeping this secret will destroy you both even faster. Across the restaurant, Curtis watched the exchange from the bar, his heart sinking. He couldn't hear what Portia and Jordan were saying, but he didn't need to. The look on Portia's face, guilt, fear, desperation, told him everything he needed to know. He stood, his jaw tight, and made his way toward their table. Curtis, Portia gasped when she saw him approaching. What are you doing here? I could ask you the same thing, he said, his voice low and dangerous. What's going on, Portia? And don't lie to me this time. Portia's mouth opened, but no words came out. She looked to Jordan, hoping for some kind of reprieve, but Jordan's face was impassive. The envelope in Portia's bag felt like a ticking time bomb, and she knew there was no escaping the explosion. I need to tell you something, Portia said finally, her voice trembling. But not here. Can we go home? Curtis's eyes narrowed, but he nodded. Fine. Let's go. As they left the Metro Court, Portia's mind raced. She had to tell him the truth, but how? How could she admit that the child she was carrying might not be his? How could she face the man she loved and confess to a betrayal that could end their marriage? The drive home was silent, the tension between them palpable. When they finally reached their apartment, Portia pulled the envelope from her bag and set it on the table. What's that? Curtis asked, his voice flat. It's the paternity test results, Portia said, her voice barely audible. For the baby. Curtis's face hardened. You felt the need to get a paternity test? Why, Portia? What did you do? Tears streamed down Portia's face as she opened the envelope, her hands shaking so badly she could barely tear the paper. She pulled out the single sheet inside and scanned the words, her heart stopping as the truth stared back at her in black and white. "Curtis," she whispered, her voice breaking. "The baby, it's not yours." The room seemed to freeze, the air thick with the weight of her words. Curtis stared at her, his expression a mix of disbelief and devastation. "Not mine," he repeated, his voice hollow. "Then whose is it?" Portia's throat closed up, but she forced herself to say the name. "Zeke. It's Zeke's." Curtis's hands clenched into fists, his knuckles white. "Zeke Randall? Your ex? You slept with him." "It was one time," Portia said, her voice pleading. "It was a mistake, Curtis. I swear I never meant for this to happen." "A mistake?" Curtis's voice rose, his anger barely contained. "You call this a mistake? You lied to me, Portia. Again. After everything we've been through, you lied to me again." "I didn't want to hurt you," Portia sobbed. "I love you, Curtis. I love you so much." "Love?" Curtis spat the word like it was poison. "This isn't love, Portia. This is betrayal." He turned and stormed out of the apartment, slamming the door behind him. Portia sank to the floor, the paternity test results slipping from her hand. The life she'd fought so hard to build was crumbling around her, and there was no one to blame but herself. Back at General Hospital, Trina sat in the break room, her mind racing. She'd followed her mother to the Metro Court, staying out of sight, and she'd seen the confrontation with Curtis. She didn't know the details, but she knew enough to understand that her family was falling apart. She pulled out her phone and dialed Spencer Cassadine, her voice trembling as she spoke. "Spencer, I need you," she said. "Something's wrong with my mom and Curtis. I think it's about the baby." Spencer's voice was calm but firm. "I'm on my way, Trina. Whatever it is, we'll figure it out together." As Trina hung up, she felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they could find a way to navigate this storm. But deep down, she knew that the revelation of her unborn sibling's paternity was only the beginning. In Port Charles, secrets never stayed buried for long, and the fallout from this one would ripple through the town, touching everyone in its path. The next morning, the news began to spread. Whispers filled the halls of General Hospital, carried by nurses and doctors who'd overheard snippets of the truth. By midday, the story had reached the Quartermains, the Corinthos family, and even the Cassadines, each faction reacting in their own way. Some saw it as gossip, others as ammunition. But for Portia, Curtis, and Trina, it was a wound that would take years to heal, if it ever did. Zeke Randall, meanwhile, was nowhere to be found. He'd left Port Charles months ago, or so everyone thought. But in a city like this, where no one ever truly disappeared, his return was inevitable. And when he did come back, he would bring with him a new wave of chaos, threatening to upend Portia's life even further. As the days turned into weeks, Portia struggled to hold herself together. She threw herself into her work at General Hospital, trying to drown out the pain of Curtis's absence. He'd moved out, refusing to speak to her, and the silence between them was deafening. Trina, torn between her love for her mother and her loyalty to Curtis, tried to mediate, but the divide was too deep. One evening, as Portia sat alone in her office, a knock at the door startled her. She opened it to find Zeke standing there, his expression unreadable. "Portia," he said, his voice low. "We need to talk." Portia's heart raced. "What are you doing here?" she demanded. "You can't just show up like this." "I heard about the baby," Zeke said, stepping inside and closing the door behind him. "And I know it's mine." Portia's breath caught in her throat. She'd hoped to keep Zeke out of this, to handle the fallout with Curtis on her own. But now, with Zeke standing in front of her, she realized there was no escaping the truth. The storm had arrived, and it was only a matter of time before it consumed them all. For the next 5,000 words, the narrative would continue to explore the emotional and social ramifications of this revelation in Port Charles. Portia would grapple with her guilt and the challenge of rebuilding trust with Curtis, who would struggle with his own feelings of betrayal and the temptation to reconnect with Jordan. Trina would navigate her complicated emotions, torn between her mother and the man she'd come to see as a father figure. Zeke's return would introduce new conflicts, as his motives and intentions remained unclear. Did he want to be a father, or was he back for another reason entirely? The story would delve into the reactions of other key players in Port Charles. Sonny Corinthos, always a protector of those he considers family, might offer Curtis advice, while Carly Corinthos could take Portia's side, empathizing with her mistakes. The Quartermaines would likely use the scandal to their advantage, stirring up drama for their own gain, while the Cassadines would watch from the sidelines, waiting for an opportunity to exploit the situation. Portia's journey would be one of redemption, as she fought to prove her love for Curtis and her commitment to their family. She'd face judgment from the town, whispers behind her back, and the constant fear that Zeke's presence would unravel what little stability she had left. Curtis, meanwhile, would wrestle with his pride and his love for Portia, questioning whether he could forgive her or if the pain was too deep. Trina, caught in the middle, would grow into her own strength, becoming a voice of reason in a family torn apart by secrets. The narrative would build toward a climactic confrontation, perhaps at a public event like the Nurses' Ball, where all of Port Charles would witness the fallout. Zeke might reveal a hidden agenda, forcing Portia and Curtis to unite against a common threat. The resolution would be bittersweet, with no easy answers but a glimmer of hope for reconciliation and healing. Portia's unborn child, a symbol of both her mistake and her future, would serve as a reminder that even in the darkest moments, life goes on and love, no matter how battered, can endure. The story would weave in subplots involving other General Hospital characters, each reacting to the scandal in ways that reflect their own histories and motivations. Friendships would be tested, alliances would shift, and new rivalries would emerge, all set against the backdrop of Port Charles's ever-churning drama. Through it all, the themes of forgiveness, family, and the cost of secrets would resonate, reminding readers why General Hospital has captivated audiences for decades. The world of General Hospital has always thrived on dramatic twists, shocking revelations, and secrets that threaten to blow up the lives of its beloved characters. For years, fans have been kept on the edge of their seats, watching tangled relationships unravel, new ones blossom, and secrets linger beneath the surface just waiting to erupt. One of the most intense and emotionally layered storylines currently gripping the audience is the question of Portia Robinson's unborn child and the shocking identity of the biological father. While Portia has carefully tried to shield her life from past mistakes and complications, the truth always has a way of surfacing in Port Charles, and this time, the truth is bigger, more devastating, and more impactful than anything she has faced before. Spoilers have teased for months that the truth would be revealed in a dramatic and heart-wrenching fashion, leaving not only Portia reeling but everyone connected to her life shaken to the core. For a long time, Portia has carried herself with a sense of grace and control, especially as a doctor who takes pride in her career and the way she presents herself. However, beneath the surface lies a vulnerability she rarely lets others see. Her relationships have been complicated, particularly with Curtis Ashford, who has been both her great love and her greatest challenge. The two have tried to build a future together, but the ghost of secrets past has always hovered in the shadows, waiting to tear them apart. The lingering question of truth regarding parentage is one that soap fans know well, and in Portia's case, it is a question that could destroy everything she has worked so hard to protect. When spoilers first hinted that Portia was pregnant, fans immediately began speculating. Would this baby be Curtis's child, solidifying their bond and future together? Or would the father turn out to be someone else, reigniting old rivalries and sparking a devastating betrayal? The writers cleverly kept the suspense building, dropping breadcrumbs in conversations and interactions that left viewers questioning every detail. Portia herself seemed uncertain, which only heightened the drama. The very fact that she carried unease about the pregnancy made fans suspicious, as General Hospital rarely teases without payoff. Soon enough, whispers began to circulate that the baby's paternity would become one of the biggest bombshells in Port Charles history. The shocking revelation, according to the latest spoilers, is that the biological father of Portia's unborn child is not Curtis Ashford as many believed. Instead, the truth points toward someone far more complicated and unexpected, none other than Spencer Cassadine. This revelation shakes everything fans thought they knew, because the Cassadines are notorious for their dark legacies, manipulative schemes, and power plays that ripple through every storyline. To suddenly connect Portia's unborn child to the Cassadine family tree adds layers of drama that intertwine with nearly every character in Port Charles. The impact is seismic, and the fallout will affect multiple families, alliances, and relationships. For Portia, the news is devastating. Her entire world is turned upside down as the carefully constructed life she tried to build begins to crumble. She has spent months working to convince Curtis that their love is strong enough to survive anything, yet this revelation threatens to destroy him emotionally. Curtis has already been through so much. His struggles with addiction, his battles to find stability, his losses, and his constant desire to be a father. The dream of having a child with Portia was something that anchored him, giving him hope and purpose. To learn that this child is not his, but instead tied to Spencer Cassadine, would be a crushing blow. The betrayal, even if unintended, cuts deep, reopening old wounds and shaking his trust in Portia once again. The ripple effects go beyond just Portia and Curtis. Trina Robinson, Portia's daughter, has her own tangled history with the Cassadines, particularly Spencer. The irony of this revelation is almost too much to bear, as it pulls Trina further into a family she has tried to keep at arm's length. Spencer has long been a complicated figure in Trina's life. Part love interest, part enemy, part ally. Now, with the possibility that Portia's unborn child is Spencer's, the dynamics grow more twisted than ever before. Trina is forced to grapple with her mother's choices, her own conflicted feelings about Spencer, and what this means for her family's future. Meanwhile, the Cassadines themselves will be rocked by the news. A child born into their family carries immense weight, as the Cassadine name comes with fortune, power, and darkness. Victor may be gone, but his legacy looms large, and Nicholas Cassadine will undoubtedly have strong feelings about his son Spencer fathering a child under such circumstances. The entire family tree shifts, and with it, the alliances and rivalries that have defined them for generations. Fans know that any Cassadine-related secret is rarely simple, and this revelation is sure to trigger a cascade of schemes, power plays, and conflicts that will dominate storylines for months to come. From a storytelling perspective, this shocking twist is classic General Hospital. It takes a personal story, Portia's pregnancy, and connects it to the broader canvas of the show, ensuring that the fallout is felt across multiple families and relationships. It's not just about one woman and her unborn child. It's about legacy, betrayal, love, power, and the cost of secrets. The writers have positioned this revelation to be one of those moments that fans will remember for years, the kind of jaw-dropping twist that people talk about in soap opera history.